All right, let's talk about interest groups today and the role they play in the government structure and what they actually are. So, your objectives and central questions for interest groups. Do interest groups negatively impact policy in the United States? So, how do they impact? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And we should be able to describe the functions of what interest groups do by the end of this. So, what is an interest group? Think about what these words actually mean and come up with a definition. So, think about um, those two words and try to define it in your head on your own. All right. So, an interest group is an organization, private, separate from the government, that tries to persuade people, persuade public officials, so your government officials, your lawmakers, people within the executive branch, people that are campaigning, and they want them to respond to the shared attitudes of its members. So they have a certain idea or concept that they are passionate about, and that's what their interest group rallies around, and they want to persuade people to think like them. So they have a specific agenda based on specific issues. The role that they play. So again, specific groups created to influence public policy. They are influencing lawmakers and how the government responds. They pressure different groups. Uh, there's pressure groups where they constantly are telling them to do things and change policies. Special interest groups were very, very specific ideas. Organized interest groups, lobbyists, there's different committees, clubs, associations, federations. Those are all different groups that try to influence public policy. So, what might be an example of something that an interest group might support? So, think about some social issues or different concepts that people might rally around in a group, an organization, and support. So, what are these groups? Interest groups are everywhere public policies are formed. So, it could be the smallest level, like a town or a village, to the county, to the state, to the United States. Again, public policies are laws, they are things that we follow, things that guide our government structure and our society. And we need interest groups. And that why? Well, we need people to persuade others to do things. We need people to do research. We need people to find new concepts and ideas to transform our public policies. And we need people to be passionate about certain topics. So why are they different from political parties? Political parties, they are there to nominate their candidates for public office. They try to win these elections. They want to control the government. They want to be the who. They are the who, the people in government. They are concentrating on everything the voters are concerned about. They are accountable to the people so they can get voted out, they can vote it in. Versus interest groups are trying to affect the outcome by supporting candidates that support their ideas. They're interested in influencing those different policies. They're really concerned about a couple issues. So the what that is going on, not the people, but the what. What is happening? What public policies are being made? They usually only concern themselves with one issue. Now, one issue could be a large issue like environment, and there's a bunch of issues within that. And they're usually a private organization, and they don't have to be accountable to the public. They get private donations, they have members, they can't get voted out. So, are these a good thing or a bad thing? What do you think? Do you believe that interest groups are good for the United States government? And be able to explain yourself. So, take a second here, think about this. Are they a good thing or are they a bad thing? All right, so valuable. They stimulate interest in public affairs. They raise awareness. They get ideas out that maybe some people don't know about. They find the ideas that they feel are important for the United States. They do research and things like that. So they unite people over the country, not just in certain regions, not where you live, but how you live. So if it's a topic that could affect the whole country, they can try to gather information and connect people throughout the whole country. It's not just always a local thing. They also provide information to the government. They're going to spend a lot more time and money on that one issue than a government official will. And this will help influence that public policy. They can also connect people to the government. They can find people that are passionate in the subject, they know more information about the subject, and connect them to politicians and government officials. They can connect the voters as well on this issue. And it's an idea of checks and balances. They're checking the people that are in the government to do their job and influence them to think away. Competition, again, is always a good thing. It evens the playing field. If it was just one politician who's in there the whole time or she's in there the whole time, they might have the same ideas over and over. This can kind of challenge those ideas and maybe bring new people into the political world. So, what are some things that could be bad about it? Criticisms. Some groups have an influence far out of proportion to the size and importance. So, if you think about the NRA, they have a not so large following, uh, but they have a very large presence in government. So, they have a lot of power when maybe it's not even a majority of the people that are in the NRA. So there's probably a small membership that has a lot of money that has a lot more influence. So that could be an issue. Maybe it's not the majority of people think one way, but they influence through the means of money. And sometimes it's hard to tell who or how many a group represents. Sometimes these interest groups will put out names like Citizens for um, a Cleaner Environment or Citizens for Better Business Practices. Well, it might not be citizens, it might just be business owners that are trying to protect themselves. So the name could be very tricky to determine who is actually supporting this. They could have a small following with a lot of money, they could have a large following with a little money and maybe not do so well. Sometimes not representing all the people they claim. So again, they say they're claiming they're representing citizens, maybe they're representing just business owners, and they could become corrupt, bribery, using money to push their agenda, more money than they should. Um, Maybe the people don't even care about what they're saying just because they have a lot of money. And this is kind of the idea of lobbying. So the last concept here that interest groups do, they have lobbyists and they work usually in Washington, D.C. and the other capitals and states. And they go around and they pressure the legislators or the people who are making the laws to pass different laws based on their agenda. So used by interest groups, they get things done. They lobby their agenda. They push, 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 push. They are trying to persuade people to vote the way they would vote based on their specific issue. So that's a quick wrap up of interest groups.